The alien market was loud and hot, shouting, screaming, laughing. Traders called out prices while aliens in cages were dragged into the light. Many were dirty, some were injured. But they were all being sold like animals. One by one. The buyers didn't care who they were. They just wanted strong slaves, good workers, obedient pets. And in the middle of it all was one cage that no one went near. Inside it, a small alien girl sat in silence. Her skin was pale and dry. Her body looked weak, thin, like she hadn't eaten in days. Her wrists and ankles were wrapped in tight metal cuffs, chained to the floor. She didn't speak. She just stared at the ground. "Forget that one." A fat alien trader laughed, wiping sweat from his neck. "She's useless. Half dead, can't even talk." A group of buyers walked past her cage and didn't even look. "She's still here from last week?" one asked. "Yeah," the trader said, grinning. "No one wants her. She can't work. Might be broken in the head. Worthless." They laughed and moved on, but someone had been watching from the side. A human, quiet, tall, dressed in dark armor. A soldier. He stood with arms crossed, staring at the girl in the cage. He hadn't moved for a long time. No one noticed him at first. But when he finally stepped forward, the trader's smile faded. "You again?" the trader asked. "Still watching that trash?" The human didn't speak. He walked straight to the cage. The girl didn't look up. "How much?" the human asked. The trader blinked. "What? You want her?" The human didn't answer. "Look, man," the trader said, leaning closer. "You can have a strong fighter for just 50 credits, big guy. Strong arms. This one?" He pointed at the girl. "This one's not worth 5. The human pulled out a single credit chip. "Done," he said. The crowd around them burst into laughter. "He paid for that? What's he gonna do? Use her as decoration?" "Maybe he likes broken toys," the trader shrugged. "Your loss, human." He pressed a button, and the girl's cuffs opened with a hiss. But she didn't move. She just lay there, too weak to even sit up. The human stepped into the cage, knelt beside her, and gently picked her up. Her skin was cold. She flinched at his touch, shaking. "Please don't hurt me," she whispered so quietly, it was almost nothing. The human paused. His face didn't change. But he wrapped his jacket around her and carried her away. The crowd kept laughing. Outside the market, he walked through the dusty streets, carrying her like a child. She still didn't speak. Her eyes were half closed. At a small shelter on the edge of town, he laid her on a cot. It was dark and quiet inside. He brought her water. She stared at it. "It's not poisoned," he said softly. She took the cup with both hands, shaking, and drank slowly. Then she coughed. "Easy," he said. He gave her food next. She ate like she hadn't in weeks. Then he brought a blanket and covered her legs. The girl looked at him, finally really looking. Her eyes were large and glowing faintly like stars trapped in darkness. "Why?" she asked, voice weak. "Why?" "What?" he asked. "Why did you buy me?" He didn't answer. She waited. But he turned away and started checking his gear. Hours passed. She fell asleep. Later that night, thunder rumbled in the sky. The girl woke up suddenly, her breath short. She had dreamed of chains and fire, of screams, of being dragged. She sat up slowly. The human was sitting nearby, polishing a small metal box. He hadn't noticed she was awake. She stared at him for a long time, and then she spoke. "I wasn't always like this," she whispered. The human looked up. "I used to be someone," she said. "Before they took me." He said nothing. "They said I was dangerous. So they locked me up, broke me, sold me." She looked down. "They were afraid of me." Silence. The human stood and walked over. He crouched beside her again, like at the cage. "I don't care what they said," he replied calmly. "I saw something they didn't." "What?" she asked, voice small. He stood up. "Hope," he said. Then walked away to guard the door. The girl looked down at her chained wrists. The cuffs were gone now, but the marks remained. She touched them gently, and for the first time in years, she felt the smallest warmth in her chest. Not fear, not hate, just something else. Something human. Asterisk. The human's name was Jackson Wade, a former Earth soldier. Cold eyes, quiet steps, a past full of blood and war. Now, he sat in a small metal room at the edge of the alien town. The lights flickered. The wind outside howled through broken panels. Across from him, lying on a thin mattress, was the girl he had bought for just 1 credit. She was still asleep. Or pretending. Jackson didn't care. He just watched the door. A gun rested on his knee, silent, ready. But even he didn't expect what happened next. Bang, bang, bang. Someone slammed on the door. Jackson didn't move. He just raised the gun. Little higher. Open up, human. A voice shouted, deep, rough, angry. Jackson opened the door slowly. Outside stood a thick alien trader. Red skin, 4 arms. He smelled like sweat and smoke. You really bought her? The alien growled. Jackson didn't answer. That slave, she's not normal, the trader hissed. You should return her before it's too late. She's not a weapon, Jackson replied, voice calm. The trader leaned in closer. You don't know what you've done, human. That girl, she was marked for destruction by the guild. Not even the slave markets wanted her. Why do you think we left her locked for weeks? Jackson stared at him. Then slowly, he said, then why? Are you so afraid now that she's free? The trader's face twisted. He backed away and stormed off without another word. Jackson closed the door and locked it tight. Inside, the girl opened her eyes. She had heard everything. She sat up slowly, her voice shaky. Why do they fear me? Jackson turned toward her. Because fear makes weak men feel powerful, he said. She frowned. He walked over and sat beside her on the floor. What's your name? He asked. She hesitated, then whispered, Kelly. A pause. That name, he said quietly. It sounds royal. Her eyes widened, but she said nothing. Jackson noticed a faded mark on her collarbone. A symbol, strange and old. It glowed faintly under the flickering light. Later that night, Jackson took Kelly to a local healer. She couldn't walk well yet. Her legs were thin and bruised. He carried her in silence. The healer, a wrinkled alien woman, gasped when she saw Kelly's face. She shouldn't be alive, the healer whispered. This girl. Was hunted. Jackson narrowed his eyes. Why? The healer looked nervous. She leaned close. Long ago, a powerful bloodline was almost wiped out. One survivor escaped. They said she was just a child. But she carried a dangerous gift, a weapon inside her. One that could destroy cities. Kelly looked away. The healer stared at her carefully. I see it in her, the woman said. She's no ordinary girl. If the guild finds out she's still alive. Jackson stood up and picked up Kelly again. I don't care what she has inside, he said. She's not a weapon to me. Back at the shelter, Kelly sat on the floor, watching the human make a small fire in a metal drum. She finally spoke again. Why do you treat me like a person? Jackson didn't look at her. Because you are one, he said. She stared into the fire, her voice trembling. Back in the cage, I used to dream of someone coming, but they only came to laugh. Or kick me, or try to break me. Her hands curled into fists. But when I saw you, you didn't look at me like the others. Jackson turned to face her now. I saw something they missed, he said. What? She asked. Someone who was still alive. Even when everyone else thought you were already gone. The room was quiet. Outside, the wind screamed. The sky cracked with thunder. But inside the shelter, a strange peace had formed. A bond, fragile, new. Suddenly, Callie gasped. Her hands glowing. Soft blue light pulsed from her palms. She tried to cover it, but Jackson had already seen. I don't know what this is, she said, panicking. It only started after you touched me. After I left the cage. Jackson knelt beside her, calm. It's not hurting you, he said. But what if I hurt you? She whispered. He met her eyes. Then I'll forgive you, he said. Her eyes filled with tears. But they didn't fall. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like a slave. She felt like someone worth saving. Callie had never seen a sky so quiet. She stood outside the shelter, barefoot on cold metal ground. The stars above her blinked gently, like they were watching, but she didn't feel small. She felt exposed. Like the sky could see her past. Behind her, Jackson stood silently at the door, keeping watch. He didn't speak, but he was always near. She could feel his presence like a shield at her back. She hated how much that comfort scared her. That morning, she had awoken shaking. The nightmare was fresh again. Chains, fire, screams, a burning mark pressed into her skin while voices whispered, destroy her bloodline, erase her name. She had gasped awake, sweat on her face, breath short. Jackson was already beside her, holding a cup of water. He didn't ask what she saw. He never did. And maybe that's why she trusted him more than anyone else. Later, while Jackson cleaned an old energy rifle, Callie sat by the heater and stared at her hands. They were thin, bruised, and scarred. But something new was happening to them. Blue veins shimmered under the skin light, not blood. She didn't tell Jackson. Not yet. Not until she was sure she wasn't becoming something worse. Something the old stories whispered about. That evening, while she cleaned herself with warm water from a metal basin, she saw the full shape of the scars on her back in a cracked mirror. And froze. They weren't just lines or whip marks. They were symbols, carved deeply into her skin. Long ago, patterns, circles, stars. One looked like a royal crest. She touched it and felt a sharp pain, like lightning under her skin, and a voice echoed in her mind. If she awakens, the seal will break, and the weapon will remember its master. She dropped the cloth. Her hands trembled. Jackson, she said softly. He looked up from across the room. I want to show you something. He stood slowly and walked over. His face was unreadable as always. She turned around, lifted her shirt to show her back, and said nothing. He stared. Not in shock, not in fear, but like someone recognizing a secret that was never supposed to be found. These aren't just scars, she said. They were put there by the guild when I was a child, before they sold me. Why? He asked. To seal something inside me, she said, to lock it away. Jackson traced the marks with his eyes. These are binding runes, he muttered. Ancient ones from the lost tribes, Callie nodded. My mother. She told me once, before she died, that I had something special inside me, a spark no one else had. She looked at him now, but they feared it. They called me a weapon. Sighed I would destroy the balance. So they erased me. Jackson sat down on the floor beside her. They didn't erase you, he said. You're still here. Callie smiled sadly. I don't even know who I am anymore. You're Kelly, he said. That's enough for me. A pause. Then he added, but if you want to know more, we'll find the truth. Together, her eyes widened. You'd risk that? The guild will kill you just for being near me. He leaned back, resting his head on the wall. I've already died once, he said. This time, I want to live for something real. Later that night, she couldn't sleep. The symbols on her back began to burn again, glowing faint blue beneath the skin. She cried out in pain. Jackson rushed to her side. What's happening? He asked, holding her shoulders. I don't know, she gasped. It's like something's waking up inside me. Her body shook. And then a wave of light burst from her chest, knocking over everything in the room. Jackson was thrown back, but when he stood and looked at her, She was floating, hair rising. Eyes glowing. Symbols on her skin, shining like stars. Then suddenly, everything went black. She collapsed into his arms. He held her gently, breathing hard. She's more than just a slave, he whispered to the empty room. She's a secret. The galaxy tried to bury. Kelly woke up to silence. Not the quiet of peace, but the silence before something terrible. She sat up slowly, the blanket falling from her shoulders. Her body ached, but something felt different. Lighter. Stronger. The light from her hands was gone. The symbols on her skin had faded again, but not completely. They still pulsed softly, like sleeping stars. Across the room, Jackson was awake. He hadn't slept. He had sat beside her all night, rifle by his side, eyes on the door, watching, protecting. He turned to her now. You were floating, he said quietly. Kelly touched her chest. I felt something break inside me. Or awaken, Jackson said. That afternoon, Jackson took her to an abandoned observatory on the edge of the desert town. It was old and dusty, filled with broken tech and maps of dead stars. This place used to belong to the guild, he said. Long ago, they tracked power signatures here. He showed her an old data screen. When your symbols lit up last night, this machine started beeping. And look, he pointed at the screen, her name Kelly, blinking in old alien script. Someone put your identity in the system. But it was hidden behind layers of security. Like they wanted to forget you, but also watch you. Kelly stared at it in silence. Then slowly, she whispered, I wasn't always a slave. She began to tell him the truth, not all at once, but slowly, like peeling off pieces of her past, one painful memory at a time. I was born on the sky palace of Aravara, she said. My mother was a queen, my father, a warrior prince from another system. They called me Starburn because of a light I carried in my body, Jackson asked. What kind of light? I don't know, she said. They said it was ancient, from the time before planets had names. She looked at her glowing hands, but it scared them, even my own people. Kelly explained how her palace was attacked by the guild when she was still a child. They didn't want to kill her. They wanted to contain her. They burned our history, took me away, locked me up. She paused. Then, they sold me. Her voice cracked. I was passed from owner to owner. Some wanted to use me. Some just wanted to break me. She looked at Jackson, but none of them saw me, not until you. Before Jackson could respond, the observatory door creaked open. They both turned. A shadow stood in the doorway, tall, wrapped in dark robes. Jackson reached for his rifle, but the figure raised a hand slowly. I come in peace, the voice said. Deep, calm. Kelly's eyes widened. I know that voice. The figure stepped forward, pulling back the hood. It was an old alien man with glowing blue eyes and golden tattoos along his forehead. He bowed. Princess Kelly, he said softly. You are alive, the stars wept, but they did not lie. Kelly stood frozen. Elder Tharos? She whispered. Jackson watched them, hand still on his rifle. You know him? He asked. He was one of my tutors, Kelly said. He taught me how to read the ancient scripts. Tharos nodded. I have searched for you for many cycles. I followed rumors, whispers, but when your light returned to the skies last night, I knew. The seal was broken. He looked at Jackson, and this human. He freed you? Kelly nodded. Tharo stepped closer and placed a hand over his chest. Then I owe you more than thanks, warrior. But his face turned grim. The guild has felt your awakening too, he said. They will come. Not just to take her, but to erase her again. How long do we have? Jackson asked. Not long, Tharo said. But there is hope. There is something hidden. Something her parents left behind. A weapon, a key. It can only be unlocked by one of her bloodline, and one of your kind. Jackson narrowed his eyes. A human? Tharos nodded. Double quotes, yes. The final lock was built with Earth's lost tech. And it needs both of you to open it. Kelly looked at Jackson, her voice barely a whisper. Will you help me find it? He met her gaze without hesitation. I didn't buy a slave, he said. I found a mission. She smiled, tired but real. And for the first time since she was a child, Kelly felt like a princess again. The sky turned red without warning. Clouds spun in strange circles above the desert. Wind screamed through the metal bones of the old observatory. Inside, Kelly stood still. Her hands glowed again, but this time not with fear, with purpose. Tharos whispered, "It's starting." Jackson looked out the broken window. Black ships were falling from the sky like knives. No warning, no mercy. The Guild, he said. Kelly turned to him. They're here for me. No, Jackson said, loading his rifle. They're here to steal what you are, again, but not this time. Outside, sand burst upward as ships landed hard. Steel doors opened, and shadows marched out. Guild enforcers, black armor. No faces, no hearts. They moved like machines. But they hunted like wolves. One of them raised a scanner. Target signature confirmed. Starborn Energy, room 42. Move in. Inside, Tharos touched Kaylee's forehead. You must not be afraid of what you are, he told her. I don't know how to fight, she said, shaking. You don't need training, he said. You need to remember. Jackson threw her a small bracelet. Human tech. What's this? Callie asked. He smirked. Something old and dangerous. It's sensed your energy now. Just focus. The ground began to shake. The doors exploded. Inward, 3 Guild enforcers charged in. Jackson fired first short bursts, clean and fast. One went down, but the others kept coming. Tharos threw up a shield of light, but he was too old. It cracked quickly. Callie froze as one enforcer rushed her. Then something snapped inside her chest. Her eyes flared bright blue. The symbols on her skin burst with energy. She raised her hand. Instinct, not thought. A wave of force shot out like a thunderclap, slamming the enforcer through the wall. Jackson blinked. That wasn't the bracelet, he said. Callie stood in the middle of the room, glowing like a star. Her voice changed deeper, powerful, steady. I remember now, she said. They tried to bury me, but I'm not made of dust. I'm made of light. Another enforcer ran at her. Callie didn't move. The air around her bent. The metal floor cracked. The enforcer stopped, frozen in place, as her energy held him like a giant invisible hand. With a blink, she crushed his armor like paper. Outside, more Guild soldiers surrounded the building. Jackson and Tharos stood behind Kelly as she walked to the door. She opened it slowly. The wind howled around her, but her hair floated calmly, light surrounding her. The soldiers raised their weapons. Kelly raised her hand. The sand rose behind her like a wave, and then she let it crash forward, a storm of dust. Light and force slammed into the Guild troops, knocking them off their feet, blowing ships backward. Jackson pulled her back inside. Not bad for someone who said she can't fight, he said, breathing hard. Kellie's glow dimmed. She smiled faintly. I didn't fight. I just stopped holding back. Later, as they moved through the wreckage, Tharos looked worried. That was only the first wave, he said. They will send more, and worse. Jackson nodded. Then we move fast. He looked at Kelly. Are you ready? She didn't hesitate. Was never ready before, she said. But now I know who I am. She placed her hand on her chest, and I know what I carry. That night, far away in a hidden Guild base, a dark figure watched the battle replay on a screen. A voice behind him said, she's awakened. Just like the prophecy said. The figure turned. Then we bring in the harvesters, he growled, and we crush that human before he breaks her completely free. Callie sat beside a small fire in the ruins of a broken city. The stars above her were cold and quiet now. No guild ships in sight. But she felt them coming. Not just with ships. But with something worse. Something ancient. Something hungry. Jackson cleaned his weapon quietly, watching the darkness around them. They hadn't spoken much since the attack, not because they were afraid, but because both of them knew the next time the guild came, it wouldn't just be soldiers. It would be monsters. Tharos appeared from the shadows, his robe torn, his eyes tired. I read the signals, he said. The guild didn't retreat. They're gathering. For what? Kelly asked. For the harvesters. Tharos whispered. Jackson tensed. Those are just rumors. No, Tharos said. The harvesters were real, made by the guild long ago, created to track and rip out star energy from living beings. They were made for her kind. Kelly looked at her hands. They weren't glowing now, but deep inside. She felt the light. Trembling. That night, Kelly had a strange dream. She stood alone in a white room. Her chains were gone. Her body was clean. Her crown was on her head. She looked at her reflection. But the face staring back was not her. It was a cold, silver version of herself. You don't belong with him, it said. You are a weapon, not a woman. Let him go before your power kills him. She reached for the reflection. It shattered. She woke up with a scream. Jackson was already there, holding her shoulders. It was just a dream, he said softly. No, she whispered. It was a message. Later, while they prepared to move, Jackson gave Kaylee a small box. She opened it and found a worn metal tag. What's this? She asked. My soldier ID, he said. From Earth, before I left everything behind. Why? Give it to me. In case I don't make it, he said. She stared at him. No, she said firmly. You don't give something like this unless you're planning to come back for it. He looked at her for a long moment, and then nodded once. As they began moving through the old tunnel system, they heard a noise. Click, click, clack. Sound like metal claws on stone, then a smell burnt wires and blood. Jackson raised his rifle. Light. Out, he whispered. They all turned off their gear. Darkness swallowed them. Only Kelly's body still gave off a soft glow. Then something moved behind them. Fast. Too fast. Tharo shouted. Run! They ran through the tunnels. Behind them, the harvester screeched, a sound like metal grinding bone. It smashed through walls like paper. Jackson turned and fired, but his bullets melted against its armor. It was tall. 6 arms. Its face a smooth, black mask, but what scared Kelly most were its eyes, because it didn't have any, just empty sockets filled with blue fire, and it was coming for her. Kelly stopped running. Go, she shouted to the others. Jackson turned. What are you doing? If I run, it will chase forever, she said. But if I stand? She looked down at her hands. They'll see I'm not prey. She stepped forward into the tunnel light. The harvester screamed. Kelly raised her arms. Her skin burned. Her veins lit up. The symbols on her body came alive like fire dancing on glass. And then boom. A shockwave exploded from her chest, slamming into the harvester. It hit the wall so hard, the stone cracked, but it didn't die. It stood again, laughing. And then it spoke. We don't want your body. We want your seed. Kelly froze. What did it say? Jackson asked. Tharos's face turned pale. The guild doesn't just want to kill her, he said. They want to use her to create more. More what? Jackson asked. More like her, Tharos said slowly. Children of star energy, controlled, bred, grown as weapons. Kelly fell to her knees. They want to turn me into a machine. Jackson grabbed her hand. They won't, he said. Why are you so sure? She whispered. He looked her in the eyes. Because I won't let them. Kelly was on her knees shaking, not from fear, From rage, her whole life, they called her useless. A slave. A thing. And now the guild didn't even want to kill her. They wanted to use her, breed her, turn her into a factory for weapons. Her fingers curled into the dirt as the words echoed in her head. We want your seed. She was done running. Done hiding. Done being quiet. Jackson stood beside her. Blood running down his arm. His gun was empty. His body tired, but he didn't back down. He looked at Callie and said, "We end this, now." She stood slowly, her eyes glowing bright blue, her skin shining like cracked crystal. Then she said the words that changed everything. "I am not theirs. I was never yours. I belong to me." The harvester screamed and charged. It moved like lightning, claws spinning, sparks flying. Kelly raised both hands and took the hit. Boom. The entire tunnel shook. Dust exploded everywhere. When the smoke cleared, Kelly stood holding the harvester by its neck. She wasn't even blinking. Her voice was calm. "I used to beg to be saved," she whispered. "Now I don't need saving." She crushed the machine's neck in one move. It dropped like dead metal, but more came. Dozens. Guild forces. More harvesters. A full army. Tharos stepped forward. "You cannot fight them all." Kelly didn't look back. "I don't need to fight alone." She turned to Jackson. "There's something buried beneath this ground," she said. "A key, a weapon left by my parents. And you need me to unlock it," Jackson said. She nodded. Together, they ran deeper into the earth, into the Forbidden's vault. Inside was silence. A glowing pedestal stood in the center. On it, a strange device. Human and alien tech fused together. Kelly stepped forward. Her hands lit up. Jackson stepped beside her. "Place your hand here," she said. He did. The moment they touched the device, the entire chamber came alive. Walls lit up. Symbols danced in the air. A voice spoke. Power confirmed. Starborn blood, human soul. Unlocking Guardian Core. A suit of glowing armor rose from the floor. Ancient, beautiful, built for war. Jackson looked at Kaylee. "You wear it." "No," she said. "It's not for me. It's for the one who believed in me when no one else did." She pushed the armor toward him. "I'll fight with light," she said. "You'll fight with steel." Outside, the ground split open as the guild army surrounded the entrance. Kelly and Jackson walked out side by side. She, glowing like a living sun. He, armored in fire and ancient tech. The guild commander laughed. "You think you matter, human?" He spat. "You bought a slave and now you'll die beside her." Jackson aimed his weapon. "I didn't buy a slave," he said. "I found a queen." What happened next became legend. Kelly's light tore through ships like paper. Jackson's armor roared with energy, shielding them both as they fought side by side. They were a storm of fire and light. A warrior and a starborn, and the guild broke. When it was over, only silence remained. The sand was blackened. The enemy gone. Callie fell to her knees, exhausted but alive. Jackson rushed to her side. "You okay?" he asked, pulling off his helmet. She smiled, weak but glowing. "I'm free," she whispered. For the first time. Later, as dawn rose, Pharaoh spoke to the people watching from faraway hills, former slaves, traders, strangers, warriors. He pointed to Kelly and said, "They called her worthless. But she was never weak. She only needed one person to believe in her." Kelly stood at the edge of the broken city, watching the sunrise. Jackson walked up beside her. "What now?" he asked. She turned to him. "Now we build a new galaxy. One where no girl is ever left in chains again." She took his hand. And together, they walked into the light.